Check this out. We have a pair of dual 65-gallon X-Treme Bait Tanks. What a dual tank is, you have two bait areas, one on each side, and in the middle is the filter compartment. This center filter compartment services both sides of the tank. So as the water comes in, it has to go through the 200 micron filter socks. That pulls out all the solids, all the wastes, everything but the ammonia. As that filtered water hits the bottom of the tank, the pumps pick it up, bring it back over, introduce it to the bait. Each pump is hooked with a Danco Venturi that microscopically infuses air into the water. This is what we talk about when we say your bait gets a constant flow of filtered, oxygenated water. These tanks have 4 110 pumps, 2 on each side. On this tank, you can run one or the other or both, and in the past, that gave you 3 different water turnovers. And for years, that's been an amazing combination, no matter where these tanks end up, to be able to create the perfect environment for your bait. Here's the twist. We have created options. Attached to each 110 pump is a threaded bulkhead fitting. We have created these directional flows at different angles. This is what we call the 45. So you can simply screw this piece right in, and now you have what was the equivalent of what we called a quick flow. It comes out like a little garden hose. If that's too much for your bait, you take this out, you can use the 90, a lot wider. So instead of the garden hose, you expand that water coming out. If that's too much for your bait, how about a 180? Literally comes out 180 all the way across. And the nice thing about this is you can angle it straight down, or you can place it at a slight angle. And what that does, it creates whatever kind of current you want in the tank. You have minnows or shrimp that don't want any current at all? No problem. Here's the 360. And this literally comes out 360 and out. This, a 700 gallon per hour pump. You can feel the current. On this, it barely tickles your hand, but you can see the air blow up inside the tank. We've been running this on bait here at the shop for over a month. Love it. In a lot of cases, I believe this is going to replace anyone out there who has a spray bar. Now we're going to go ahead and fill these tanks up, and let's see what they look like with water in them. As this second tank fills up, I want to go over some key features of the dual 65. Show them what you just did.
I just made a hole in here for your cork to come out of your filter lid.
So that way it flits nice and flat over. We want that cap on there so that you don't accidentally get bait in the filter compartment. So there's a fill line on these tanks, and ideally that's where you want the water to be when the pumps are running. And it's very common to see a difference in water level between the filter area and the bait tank. And the reason for that is it's the pump's job to flood the bait tank. So it's constantly pushing water at 700 gallons per hour times 2 into the bait area. And what we've done is we've breached this area in 2 ways, 2 lower returns and 2 upper returns that we call the skimmer. And that pulls water off of the surface. So we've calculated the breach such that the pumps can never win. The only time you would have an issue with something like this is if you ever get a bait jam down below, and that restricts the water. What'll happen is the water will rise and those skimmers will pick up that extra water, so that way you don't wake up to a dead tank. And while I'm talking about water, this is 142 gallons total, 265s plus the filter area. That's approximately 1,420 pounds. So these tanks must set on a very flat surface. Otherwise, over time, you'll distort the tank. So very flat surface. And some people build a platform. Even though they're 26 inches tall, they just want them off the ground. You can do that. You just have to have enough to hold that weight and to keep it completely flat. On the back of these tanks, we have put in bulkhead fittings for a possible chiller to be used later on. Now the owner of these tanks anticipates not needing a chiller because it'll be indoors in his bait and tackle store in a climate controlled setting. But just in case, because minnows can be a colder water bait, we've put the ports in there so we don't need the tanks back in order to get the ports in. This is easily done during the initial construction of the tank instead of trying to retrofit it in the field later on. The other thing that's pretty cool to see is the amount of dissolved oxygen inside this water. With the sun hitting it the way it is, it's saturated. And that's the power of a Danco Venturi. It'll microscopically infuse air into that water, and what that does, that helps raise the dissolved oxygen to a very high but safe level. And that's what I mean when your bait gets a constant flow of filtered, oxygenated water. In the back, we have 2 quick connects. Now we do not have a 110 light, and these tanks will probably never need lit. But in the event that the owner wants light in the tank, this can be hooked directly to a 12-volt battery, not 24 or 36, but 12-volt max, and you would have light. They do make inverter or converter kits from 110 to 12-volt that you can plug into a 110 and safely run these 12-volt lights. There's a QR code on the side of the tank. That takes you to our online manual. Every possible question that we could think of, we put on there as a Q&A. To allow you an opportunity to go for a quick reference if you're trying to learn something special about the tanks. Well, we're going to get these dried out. Everything is passed our test. Super pleased with the results of these. If you're ever looking for a long-term bait storage solution, feel free to contact us on our website at xtremebaittanks.com or just give us a call. Until then, we hope you have an extreme day.